So the first thing that hit me, exercise at night is terrible. Really? I'm already mad because my life is basically gym at 10:30. But I get what he's saying. It's not night, it's whether you spike your nervous system. Like if your heart rate and activation stays high, your sleep quality pays for it. Still, can't he just say, late intense sessions are tricky, not night workouts bad? Because that's how people will interpret it, and then they'll blame the clock forever. Okay, switch gears. Grip strength. That was actually the wildest claim for me. He's basically saying grip can predict aging, and even Alzheimer's risk. That's such a biomarker-y statement that I want receipts immediately. But I also like the theme, performance metrics as early warning signs. If strength declines earlier than you feel anything, you'd be late to act, right? And he ties it to falls, too, like leg strength predicting death after hip break. That's brutal, but it makes sense. Mobility is survival. Then he says VO2 max is huge. Apparently smoking and diabetes look small next to it. I'm trying to calibrate. Is it correlation, causation, or both are true? Because your cardio fitness reflects a whole ecosystem. Lungs, heart, muscle, habits. Still, if it motivates people to train, I'm not mad at the emphasis. Also the you can't not improve line. Like genetics never blocks muscle growth, fat loss, strength. That's empowering, but I want the nuance. What about injury, illness, bad programming? He's probably saying nothing stops some progress if you pay attention to what matters. And that word matters showed up a lot. Stop focusing on the irrelevant stuff. All right, invisible stressors, vitamin D, pathogens, oxidative stress, endocrine drama. Vitamin D specifically. He made it sound like the easiest supplement to justify. He basically said, if you're low, pushing it up is low risk and high reward. But then he warns not to treat every blood marker like push it up, push it down. That part I actually love, because labs can be misleading with reference ranges. Reference range is not optimal. That distinction gets ignored online constantly. And he brought up the idea that some people's markers look normal while the system is still stressed, which is where hidden stressors and allostatic load come in. Okay, sleep. This guy went full sleep lab nerd mode. In your house, wireless PSG. I was like, I'm not ready to pay for a cardiopulmonary coupling sleep experiment. But the core point was simple. Measure your actual sleep causes, not just symptoms. He had this whole structure, environment, behaviors, physiology, psychology. Environment is where he dropped CO2 like a plot twist. CO2 drives respiration, not oxygen scarcity, and breathlessness is CO2 buildup. I mean, it's wild, but the logic tracks. You can feel like you're suffocating without being oxygen-starved. Then he connects CO2 to sympathetic drive, HRV, sleep stages, waking up at night. And he mentions room concentration rising with closed doors, and especially with apartment hotel life. I liked the practical part, ventilation, moderate fans, avoid loud white noise. White noise as a sleep disruptor is something I've never heard cleanly put that way. But I've definitely felt like some sounds make me less deep, more alert. He also said morning stimulation matters. Don't immediately hit social media because your body predicts it. That's so real. Your nervous system learns patterns like a machine. Now his sleep restriction training story, that sounded insanely hard. You go to bed at like 11:59, wake at 5, no weekends. That's a boot camp. And he said it can break the learned pattern of tossing and turning. I'm not doing that, but I get the mechanism. Reduce time in bed while awake, retrain sleep association. Okay, sleep extension research. Basketball players sleeping more and shooting free throws better. That's the kind of result that makes people stop seeing sleep as optional. He said going from 7 to 9 hours isn't about life expectancy. It's performance maximization. And that's fair. People need to hear sleep is training, not just recovery. Also, he emphasized consistency over duration, like same bedtime, wake time plus 30 minutes. Finally, HRV, my dude, that segment felt personal. You want to tell me HRV can tank even when sleep duration is good? That's scary. He gave an example, keto for weeks, HRV in the bin, then it recovers later. That part makes me want blood work too, honestly, because HRV is correlation soup without context. He hinted at sex hormone-binding globulin and testosterone pathways affecting fatigue and HRV. I didn't fully buy the causal chain yet, but I buy that hormones and inflammation can be the hidden driver. Overall, I'm walking away with one theme. Stop chasing hacks, measure constraints, then fix the system. And yes, grip strength might be the most annoying at-home test to ignore. We'll park the rest for episode 2, because we barely scratched sleep mechanics and hidden biomarkers. All right, that's it for today. Go move, go sleep better, and please ventilate your room. Next episode, we'll go even deeper into the performance anchors, training, recovery, and the stuff people ignore. The sex hormone-binding globulin part felt like HRV got a villain origin story. But I still hate when people jump from correlation to causation real fast. Like, if HRV drops, we need the context. Sleep, stress, inflammation, all that. Okay, but here's what I actually buy. Hidden constraints throttle you quietly. And grip strength is such a rude little metric because it's inconveniently useful. You can't Instagram your grip strength, you know? Now, sleep. The CO2 explanation is the part that made me sit up. Because we all treat sleep like it's just duration plus supplements, right? But CO2 is literally tied to respiration and your nervous system dial. He basically said, hold your breath and you're not dying of oxygen. You're panicking from CO2. That's wild because it flips the whole air hunger narrative. If you're overbreathing, you dump CO2 too fast and you get respiratory alkalosis vibes. So your body goes, stop calming down, we're in fight or flight mode now. And HRV becomes this scoreboard for autonomic balance, so it's not random. Still, I want to push back on one thing. Sleep trackers can mislead so easily. Your watch breathing rate might be measuring nonsense sometimes. But the room's CO2 angle is harder to hand-wave away. Closed door, multiple breath sources, CO2 accumulates. Yeah, that's physics, not marketing. And CO2 sensitivity could mean two people sleep equally badly for totally different reasons. That explains why one person feels anxious in bed and another just feels tired. Also, the environmental stressors thing, pathogens, pollen, humidity, temperature, people ignore it. They'll treat sleep like a willpower problem, not a system problem. The building sickness example made me go, okay, I've definitely experienced this. You wake up with headache and brain fog and you're like, why am I like this? And then you open a window and suddenly you're normal again. CO2 could be the link. I'm obsessed with HRV too, but he called it correlation soup without context. Which is annoying because it means my spreadsheet worship is incomplete. Like my HRV can be high and recovery can still be trash because the inputs were wrong. He gave that travel example. HRV high but recovery low, then sleep environment probably betrayed you. So the answer isn't breathe better, it's stop poisoning the sleep inputs. Which brings us to the actual practical stuff. Ventilation, fans, and not nuking your room with loud noise. I also like the idea that white noise can mess things up if it's too loud. It's not more sound, better sleep, it's dosage again. Okay, but I have a question and it's kind of annoying. How much of this is really solvable at home? Because CO2 sensors aren't cheap and not everyone can build a sleep lab in their house. Still, the hidden stressor framework says you don't need perfection, just better targeting. That's why grip strength matters too. Cheap signal, big payoff. And it ties back to aging risk, Alzheimer's, dementia, all that via grip strength predicting risk. Whether or not every mechanism is fully proven, the point is measure what matters. I love that he kept saying, I've never seen a genetic combo that prevents muscle gain or weight loss or strength progress. Which is basically, stop acting like your body is a locked door. And go after constraints, sleep, inflammation, stressors, training timing, all the unsexy variables. Speaking of constraints, let's roast the night training myth for a second. He basically implied hard, late training can carry over and ruin sleep architecture for some people. But athletes play at night all the time and still sleep, so it's not universal. So it's individual sensitivity, timing, and intensity boundaries. That's the theme. Your body is adapting to your environment every second. So when you train at midnight, your nervous system says, cool, we're still working. And that sets you up to be stuck in sympathetic drive at bedtime. By the way, the sleep restriction training he described sounded brutal but logical. But it's basically pattern breaking through controlled deprivation, extreme stimulus control. I'm not doing that, but I respect the method. It's like teaching the brain, bed equals sleep, not bed equals clock-watching panic. And the part about sleep consistency, same-ish wake time, is what most people ignore. because they'll chase supplements while their circadian rhythm is chaos. Sleep timing advantage matters too, like the sports circadian time zone thing. That's honestly genius. Performance isn't local time, it's circadian normality. So our takeaways are basically measure constraints, fix inputs, stop chasing hacks. Oh, and ventilate the room, like seriously. Even if CO2 is only part of it, better air can't be bad. All right, I'm done. Go lift something, grip something, and sleep like the nervous system depends on it. Next time, we're going deeper on performance anchors, training, recovery, and the stuff people absolutely ignore. Hi, that CO2 sleep thing felt like a cheat code. You're saying your room's air can quietly bully your nervous system? And the scary part is your Whoop HRV might stay high. Wait, you mentioned you flew in and recovered terribly despite decent HRV. So HRV is strong but not a final boss, yeah? That means recovery isn't only autonomic. Environmental stuff can derail it. Okay, but I still want pushback. CO2 is real, but is it causal everywhere? Because people will overfit this and start waving CO2 meters like magic wands. Totally. But even if CO2 is not the only lever, better ventilation is still good. Like, bro, worst case, you just improve air quality. Sounds like a win. And you said studies showed huge sleep quality drops even when CO2 rises a bit. The weird part was the mechanism. CO2 drives breathing because it's about pH tightness. That sympathetic drive explanation actually made my brain click. So when CO2 climbs, you get pseudo-alertness before sleep even starts. And then overbreathing dumps CO2 too fast, causing respiratory alkalosis vibes. I love when biology turns into annoying accounting, supply-demand breath rate. But okay, let's rewind. Grip strength was the other hidden stressor bomb. Grip strength predicts aging outcomes and even dementia risk. That's wild. And it's not just be strong, it's central nervous system signaling too. The asymmetry piece, 10% difference between hands, felt both specific and unsettling. Because that suggests early denervation, like the brain's messaging is faltering. But I want to sanity check. Grip strength is also training, occupation, hobbies. True, but population averages don't mean individuals ignore context either. Still, it's a brilliant screening signal. Cheap, fast, and hard to fake. It's like strength is a proxy for whole body resilience, not one muscle. And then the whole stop chasing supplements thread runs through everything. Because if your vitamin D is low, sure, push it up, but most markers aren't that simple. Reference ranges are normal, not optimal, and ethnicity can shift what's considered normal. And the bigger warning was push-pull physiology, raise one number, accidentally drop another. So the real move is find the constraint, then fix inputs, not just the outputs. That left foot on the brake analogy is going to live rent-free in my head. Measure constraints first, then hit the gas pedal for real. Which is why sleep analysis gets so intense. Environment, behavior, physiology, psychology. I'm sorry, the full home sleep lab and measuring cardiopulmonary coupling, that's next level. But even without fancy gear, the logic is consistent. Sleep is a system. Sleep hygiene is necessary but not sufficient, especially if your body learned a nasty pattern. Like the classic, get into bed, stare at the clock, wake up and stay awake. That's where conditioning becomes the real villain, not melatonin shortages. And the sleep restriction training example is intense, brutal but effective in theory. Still, I'd be careful because people will YOLO it without supervision. So the takeaway has to be, break the pattern, keep the clock, avoid random weekend rewrites. And don't wake up and instantly doom scroll because your body anticipates stimulation. That was such a subtle point. Your alarm isn't waking you, your morning stimulus is. Now the sports circadian advantage thing, Malik be quiet, but it was genius. If performance is tied to circadian normality, not local time, then travel chaos is predictable. Same for CEOs. Negotiate on your local cognitive peak, jam their peak down. That feels ethically gray, but I can't deny it's smart. All right, but let's connect the dots to exercise at night, where you're claiming terrible idea. Because I've trained late before and felt fine, so is it blanket bad? He basically said high-intensity late can carry over hours via sympathetic activation and sleep disruption. So not never move at night, more like pick restorative, keep intensity controlled. Which is actually how athletes think. Practice timing isn't just scheduling, it's physiology. And that loops back. If your evening raises CO2 via sympathetic drive, sleep quality suffers. So the real secret biology is, everything feeds the nervous system state you try to create at night. Okay, I'm sold on the system view, not the one hack view. Now finish the thought on the keto example, because that part felt personal to your loop. If HRV drops during sleep fatigue, and your testosterone or binding globulin shifts, that can cascade. And then your body's recovery signals lag behind dietary changes. So blood work would explain what HRV is reacting to, but HRV can't tell you why. Exactly. HRV is a dashboard, not the engine. All right, for me, the core rule is measure, constrain, then optimize inputs, sleep included. And if you're weak or grip asymmetric, take it as a check the system warning, not a panic. Same with room air. Ventilate, manage patterns, and stop acting like supplements are the main story. Hi, episode 2 better bring the performance anchor angle again, because this one was already a lot. All right, I'm done arguing with my own brain. Time to drink water, grip something, and sleep like an adult nervous system. Thanks for hanging out. Go lift, go measure a little, and go sleep early-ish if you can. Next episode, we're going deeper on performance anchors and the recovery moves people keep ignoring. Okay, so HRV is the dashboard, not the engine, right? But then why do people treat it like it's prophecy, not physiology? Because you and everyone else wants a simple score, not the messy inputs. Like grip strength sounds too practical to be inspirational. But if grip can predict aging risk, that's wild and also kind of obvious. It's not magic, it's just, are you actually strong everywhere? And then we throw that away for vibes like sleep trackers and supplements. Hold on, sleep is not just duration, it's consistency and timing. That same circadian local time thing is such an underrated cheat code. People obsess over jet lag, but he's basically saying, match your internal schedule. And performance improves because your brain stops relearning every day. Now I'm thinking about my own gym timing. Midnight sessions are brutal, apparently. Because even if you feel fine, you might be training the sympathetic nervous system too late. So you're not resting late, you're just delaying recovery. And he said it can take hours for intensity to carry over, some people 6 hours. Okay, but the environmental stuff, CO2 during sleep, blew my mind. I always thought sleep was lights, caffeine, screens, done. CO2 is the hidden variable nobody talks about because it's not sexy. But physiologically, it's like you breathe out CO2, it rises in the room, you rebreathe it. And that CO2 rise nudges you into sympathetic drive, fight, flight in bed. That explains why some people feel anxious or wired after a supposedly good night. Also, the detail that overbreathing can lower CO2 too much and mess things up. Annoying but interesting. So either direction, high CO2 or too much ventilation, can wreck sleep quality. It's like breathing is the thermostat, not the fan. What I hate is how people will read vitamin D and go full supplement shopping mode. He was pretty clear, don't push everything up just because it's lowish on a lab range. Those reference ranges are built off averages, often not the healthiest sample. And being within range can still be performance suboptimal, especially with things like glucose. Like 108 fasting glucose might not trigger disease, but it should trigger optimize. That's the annoying part. Medicine labels, physiology cares. And he keeps returning to the idea of visible versus hidden stressors. Visible is like alcohol, smoking, bad sleep, poor diet, sure. Hidden is pathogens, endocrine issues, oxidative stress, even sleep that you think is fine but isn't. I'm also stuck on this grip asymmetry thing. Over 10% difference predicting neurological decline. That's one paper, but still, it forces you to take small signals seriously. Because if your brainstem and central nervous system aren't recruiting symmetrically, you'll know. Wait, but could training one side completely fake it? He basically said yes, but population averages don't always apply to your situation. Okay, now connect that to sleep. Because sleep is where adaptation and repair happen. If your sleep is compromised by CO2, stress hormones rise, recovery changes, HRV changes. So trackers are useful, but only if you're tracking inputs too. Like Malik Logic, HRV drops. So fix sleep environment and training timing, not just meditation harder. And meditation is good, but don't use it as a band-aid for a badly ventilated bedroom. The CO2 building sickness example was wild. Headaches and brain fog that improve when air quality improves. I can't believe we're treating apartment life like it's normal. Two practical moves he gave were ventilation and staying consistent with travel sleep cues. First night phenomenon. Your body acts like it's in danger because the sensors say, new place. He mentioned patterning the room via smell, sound, temperature, like bringing home with you. Lavender was his low-risk hack, which, sure, I'm not mad at it. But the bigger idea is, brain learns context, then predicts sleep. So if context shifts, your nervous system stays on. And that's why you can have 8.5 hours and still feel wrecked, because sleep quality cues weren't aligned. Random question, though, what would be your first experiment? Like, if someone listening only changes one thing tomorrow morning, CO2 monitor, fan, or gym time? My bet is ventilation and earlier hard training because you can't fake those inputs. Also, measure grip strength. It's cheap, repeatable, and forces you to respect aging biology. All right, I'm convinced. Stop acting like supplements are the whole story and start acting like physiology is smarter. And next episode better hit those performance anchors again, because I already feel like my to-do list doubled. Cool. Go lift, go measure something small like grip, and try to sleep with your environment under control. And hey, if you can sleep earlier and breathe cleaner air, do it before you overthink everything. We'll see you in episode 2, where we go deeper on performance anchors and the recovery moves people keep ignoring. Grip strength predicting dementia sounds fake, until you realize it's just function. And function is the whole game, muscle quality, nervous system, all tangled together. Wait, so asymmetry in grip over 10% could hint neurological decline? That's actually terrifying, but also useful, because it's actionable and cheap. Like you can't PR dict your way out of dementia with optimism. But you can PR your grip and leg strength, and that tells you aging is happening. I love how he kept saying hidden stressors, stuff you don't feel. That vitamin D example is so on brand for modern life. You feel fine, labs scream otherwise. Vitamin D low links to bone density, muscle strength, even immune and cognition. Wild. And his point wasn't panic supplement, it was measure, then interpret. Reference ranges are such a scam sometimes. Normal doesn't mean optimal, right? Exactly, he basically said labs flag disease, not performance. But the push-pull thing, don't blindly chase every marker upward. Low testosterone could be a symptom, not the root cause. Go backwards. That tree allergy anecdote, imagine moving your whole life to fix one blood marker. All right, now sleep. Absolute rest in-home sleep labs is insane. Wireless clinical grade studies at home? That's like sci-fi for executives. But his core argument was practical. You need to know the why behind your sleep. Like first you test environment, then behaviors, then physiology, then psychology. I kept hearing him say, don't treat sleep with vibes and melatonin first. He's basically anti-melatonin as a default because it sedates, not necessarily fixes. The sleep restriction example sounded brutal, but also kind of elegant. You set a fixed wake time, restrict time in bed, and your brain relearns the pattern. No weekend sleeping in, no naps, no making up sleep later. This is where people always lie to themselves. I'll catch up on Saturday. But he clarified sleep debt isn't time travel. It's getting out of a chronic deficit cycle. What really clicked? Sleep consistency can matter more than total sleep time. Plus, sleep timing, circadian alignment, changes real performance. He was talking NFL, NBA performance based on circadian local time, not time zones. That's actually the same logic I use for training. Don't just schedule. Match biology. Now the CO2 part, this is where I was like, wait, what? He said CO2 buildup drives respiration drive, not oxygen deprivation. So air hunger can be CO2 calling you to sympathetic mode. Okay, but the coolest nerd moment, CO2 relates to mood and cognition too. Then he drops the respiration rate numbers from sleep trackers, 16 to 18 breaths per minute. Overbreathing at night could mean respiratory alkalosis and hydration issues. I don't know if I fully buy the medical pathway, but the sleep quality link is believable. And the mechanism is plausible. Closed rooms, multiple breathers, CO2 creeps up. He even gave a real experiment-style framing. 900 ppm no issue, 2,000 plus maybe matters. So what's the action for normal people? Ventilation, earlier hard training, don't overstimulate at night. Earlier hard training makes sense. High-intensity late can trash sleep quality for hours. But he admitted athletes can't perfectly control schedules, so you adapt, not ignore. I'm still stuck on the environmental stacking: smell, sound, temperature, CO2, even first night effect. Lavender smell as a travel hack is funny, but he framed it as sensor-triggered safety cues. So you're basically telling your brain, same context, same sleep permissions. That's why I liked the patterning the sleep environment idea. Then he casually connects all this to HRV and recovery through autonomic balance. HRV-obsessed people will love him because he treated HRV as autonomic truth serum. He said HRV predicts long-term cardiovascular stuff, plus mental health, anxiety, depression. And interventions like exercise, stress reduction, breath work tend to improve it. But then he went personal. His HRV recovery tanked post-flight despite high HRV. That confused him, and honestly it would confuse me too, because HRV isn't the whole story. He basically implied you need blood work and physiology context, not just one gadget metric. That's the theme of the whole conversation: measure, interpret, then intervene, smart. And he ended by saying we could probably explain the keto HRV weirdness with blood work, which is a polite way of saying stop blaming vibes for lab-level physiology. So if you want one takeaway, it's this: fix the inputs you control. Ventilation and earlier hard training are inputs you can't placebo your way through. And grip strength is the tell that makes you respect aging biology. All right, I'm going to be annoying now. Everyone in my life gets a grip dynamometer. And everyone gets reminded, sleeping cleaner beats supplement shopping 10 times over. We're out. Go lift. Go measure one small thing tomorrow, then sleep like you mean it. Episode 2 better be loaded, because I want more on performance anchors and recovery moves. The CO2 thing is blowing my mind, like air feels harmless until it isn't. If your door's shut and you've got a dog and a partner, CO2 just climbs. And then your body goes sympathetic like, bro, I'm in trouble, breathe harder. That over-breathing lowers CO2 too much, and then you get respiratory alkalosis. Crazy. Because people think more oxygen is the goal, but you're actually chasing CO2 balance. So sleep trackers with high breathing rate might just be your nervous system screaming. Wait, so when you hyperventilate, CO2 goes low and kidneys push bicarbonate to compensate? And hydration can get weird because the whole buffering system changes. Okay, but practically, what do I do tomorrow night? Open windows? Or a fan, or measure noise, or just don't sleep with the dog like a villain? You can't tell me to stop loving my dog, come on. But the ventilation first advice is actually sane, not influencer nonsense. I'm also stuck on grip strength, predicting Alzheimer's and dementia risk. Like, why is it such a strong signal? Muscle quality, neurodecline, all roads converge. And the asymmetry piece, more than 10% difference could hint at neurological decline. That is scary, but it is also empowering because it's measurable. Malik, I'm not even trying to be dramatic, but I want a grip dynamometer yesterday. Everyone in my life will hate me after I start making them squeeze metal bars. But honestly, grip is such a leave-it-to-biology test, no gym required. And it ties back to the whole theme, performance anchors, not vibes. Speaking of anchors, the vitamin D chat was interesting, but also dangerous. Because yes, low vitamin D is common and low risk to correct. But don't freestyle supplements. I like that nuance. Reference ranges can be normal, but not optimal. And with blood work, pushing one number can pull another system in the opposite direction. Like albumin being high from dehydration but low from inflammation, people would misread that. So the real villain is treating the lab result, not the person behind it. Exactly. And sleep is the perfect example because sleep quality isn't just duration. You kept saying consistency matters more than people think. Same bedtime, same wake time. And that sleep timing thing for athletes, circadian rhythm beats jet lag magic, that's the part I'll actually use, like negotiating a meeting off my opponent's schedule. My life is basically meetings, so I'm taking notes like a goblin. But still, let's push on the exercise at night is a terrible idea claim. What if it's strength training, not HIIT? Are we banning all training after dark? Because I know some people sleep great after late lifting, then others explode. So it's not that late training is objectively evil, it's the carryover, intensity, and individual resilience. Yeah, that part where you do restorative short sessions at night makes sense. Like keep heart rate from skydiving, don't make your nervous system ramp for hours. And your HRV example, Your recovery tanked after travel, even with high HRV, was wild. So HRV alone can't guarantee real recovery because sleep environment and physiology still hit you. That aligns with what you said. HRV is autonomic balance, but sleep stage architecture still matters. Also, the keto anecdote, HRV dropping during keto and recovering later, there's something there. I want the blood work answer, but I also want to not spiral into biohacker superstition. Because the danger is turning every metric into a religion. But the CO2 and sleep structure stuff feels grounded because it's mechanistic. Air quality, ventilation, first night effect, and scent cues like lavender, these are actionable. First night phenomenon is real. It's like your brain checks into the hotel and goes on alert. So you're saying pattern the environment, sound, smell, temperature, and routine. Even the 90-minute before sleep routine while traveling, don't randomize your pre-sleep ritual. I'm thinking about how many people try to fix sleep with supplements first. And then they wonder why nothing changes, even though the constraint was the room. That's the left foot on the brake analogy for real. Your biology is holding you back. Grip strength, sleep consistency, CO2, hydration, inflammation. Stop guessing. Start measuring. If you can't measure everything, at least measure one thing tomorrow morning. Squeeze grip, check breathing rate if you can, and ventilate the room like an adult. And then train earlier if your late workouts wreck sleep. Don't fight your physiology. All right, I'm sold on the boring version, inputs, anchors, and systems. Sleep isn't a side quest. It's the operating system your training and cognition run on. Okay, hit me. What's the most likely hidden stressor you'd bet on for normal people? Okay, hidden stressor, vitamin D, but what's your top pick for normal people? You're trying to make me commit to one like it's a horse race. No, I'm genuinely asking because I feel like I'm drowning in variables. The most common one is you think you sleep fine, and you don't. That's too real. Like my aura says, nice sleep, but I feel like trash. Exactly. People track duration, not consistency, not timing, not quality. Consistency is huge because the body loves predictable inputs, right? But how do you prove it for someone whose tracker looks green? We don't need 20 biomarkers. First, we test the boring stuff properly. Boring stuff, like bedtime, wake time, and not scrolling in bed. Yes, and also the invisible environment, CO2, allergens, humidity. CO2 as a sleep killer? That sounds like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Dumb? It literally drives respiration and your nervous system tone. Okay, walk me through the CO2 makes you panic chain in plain English. You build CO2, your brain reads it like sympathetic mode incoming. So you're not oxygen deprived, you're CO2 overloaded. Correct, your breath isn't for oxygen, it's for CO2 clearance. That explains why deep breaths sometimes make me feel weirdly alert. Yep, because you swing toward respiratory alkalosis if you overdo it. So if someone's breathing rate is like 16-18 at night, what's happening? Either sleep apnea vibes or they're stuck in sympathetic overdrive. Which is why you love that measure breathing rate advice. Yeah, if you can't measure everything, measure one thing tomorrow. So you'd rather have someone buy a CO2 monitor than another supplement? Absolutely. Supplements are the expensive guessing. Environment is controllable. But what about travel? Hotels always mess up my sleep. First night phenomenon, your brain still thinks it's not home. So your home scent idea actually has logic? It's patterning. Sound, smell, temp, routine. Same cues, better sleep. Okay, I'm sold on scent. I'm not sold on lavender will fix my life. It won't fix your life. It will fix the alarm your brain set on day one. Fair. Now, you mentioned hidden stressors like vitamin D and pathogens. The key is you don't feel them, but they nudge the whole physiology. And grip strength is like the one-number predictor for aging outcomes. Right, grip, leg strength, and VO2 max outpredict longevity metrics better than people expect. But grip strength predicting dementia feels wild. How confident are we? It's not magic. It's that muscle performance reflects nervous system integrity. So that asymmetry thing, right versus left hand over 10%, is basically a neurologic clue. Exactly. It can hint at early denervation before you feel weak. That's the part that scares me, because I'm not even tracking grip. Buy a dynamometer and check monthly. It's cheap compared to wait and see. Okay, but won't people start obsessing and turning life into a blood work cult? If your goal is numbers are green, you'll chase noise forever. So what do you chase instead? Performance anchors, right? Yes, find the constraint holding your biology on the brake pedal. I love that because it's not do everything, it's remove the one limiter. And for sleep, the biggest limiter is often behavioral plus environment together. You keep saying stop doing the idiot-proof stuff, and I'm like, rude but true. It's not rude, it's just that sleep hygiene works because it changes patterns. So the pattern is bed becomes awake training, not sleep instruction. Yes, your body learns the association fast and repeats it nightly. That's why getting out of bed matters, even though it feels counterintuitive. But some people can't get out of bed. What then? Then you adjust stimulus. Dark, no phone, no stimulation, strict timing windows. Timing windows meaning go to bed and wake within like 20-30 minutes. Exactly. Sleep consistency often beats chasing more total hours. I've always heard just sleep 8 hours, and you're saying timing beats that. For performance, yes, sleep extension helps, but consistency is the base layer. Sleep extension research was basketball, right? Free throws and all. Yeah, the nerdiest thing, turning minutes into free throw arcs. So even if it's imperfect science, the direction is clear. More sleep, better output. That's the point. Mechanisms differ, but outcomes repeatedly shift the same way. Where I get skeptical is sleep debt can be repaid. People talk like time travel. You can't time travel. You can recover by fixing consistency and correcting the pattern. So the weekend catch-up sleep doesn't cut it if weekdays are chaos. Right. Variable short sleep plus weekend compensation is a terrible strategy. Okay, now bring it back to workouts. Night training ruins sleep for many people. Yeah, late high intensity can push your sympathetic drive into the night. But athletes play at 7 and finish at 10, so it's not universal. True. The world isn't perfect, but we can still create better defaults. So for regular humans, train earlier or make late sessions restorative and short. Exactly. Don't spike heart rate and nervous system with deep fatigue at night. And then you also get the big picture. Strength, VO2 max, sleep, all connected. Inputs stack. Remove stressors, increase performance anchors, and your body adapts. All right, I'm leaving today with 3 moves: grip test, ventilation, earlier training. That's a shockingly effective don't overthink it plan. Before we go, what's the one thing you'd tell someone tonight? Open a window, reduce CO2, and stop training your brain. That bed means awake. Perfect. That's actually doable in 5 minutes. Let's end it here then? Yeah, next episode we go deeper on exercise myths and the grip and sleep connection.